handy. So electric hot knife is very handy. If you don't have one of those, then a propane torch will do the same thing. But of course, it's very easy to light your boat on fire. Yeah, electric hot knife is the ideal. I think there's one in there. But it is easy to light your boat on fire. You melt these things and you walk away, and you're down here, you've already, and you look back and it smolders for a little bit, and you don't notice that, and then it will catch on fire. I've had that happen. So.
I think a lot of people are wondering how many boats you set on fire.
Squirt bottle.
It covers with the decals of flames.
Yeah, the heat gun will also do the same thing. It'll kill these little edges that grab on. So polyester, sailcloth is well, real sailcloth is made from polyester. Back from tarps. So this is polyester. Sailcloth for small boats is 3 or 4 ounce, something in that range. This is 8 ounce, so it's a little thicker. But sailcloth is impregnated with some resins, and so it gives it that stiffness. And this is a very basket weave, or actually I don't know the technical term for this weave. There's a bunch of different weaves, but $3 a foot for this, and $9 a year. This is 72 inches width, so this is just wide enough to go around the whole boat. So you just need it. You buy about a foot longer than your hull, and you're good to go. That's not true with like an Annabelle skiff or a white hull. You want a little bit longer. Buy a couple foot for a boat that has very shapely tall stems. But for these, it's fine. So this uncoated, it's not waterproof as is. It's pretty stout stuff. But the weave is fairly. You can work a hole in that eventually, which you won't be able to do once you coat the fabric. Other options for skinning these are nylon, and there's canvas that has been used for a long time, hundreds of years, to skin boats and stuff. If you're ever familiar with W.P. Stevens' Canoes and Canoeing book, it's a book about historic canoes in the 1890s. So it's online for free, but anyway, it talks about building skin-on-frame boats in this style using well, without plywood, but wooden frames that go and skin them in canvas. So this is not a new idea. Non-traditional construction as opposed to the steam gun rigs that traditional construction goes. So we've got our nice little piece of fabric here, and so you can help me unroll it. Thanks. And you don't want to drag it along here, because invariably there's some tiny little splinter that's going to grab it, and it's going to get some rust in it like your painting. It's easy to fix. It's no big deal if you get a hole in your. Is it long enough? Yeah, it's not even close to being long enough.
Okay, yeah, it covers.
Yeah. Okay, short back there. Good. So a lot of times I will take a pencil and my tape measure, none of which I can find now, and make a mark. Mark a center line, basically.
Yeah, it's really good.
So we think it's 72 inches wide. We'll confirm that, and then we'll.
Equal.
Actually, well, this boat just doesn't matter. So we want to make sure that it's more or less centered there, and we'll take a slant.
I always have trouble making my bed. That's about right. Sheets on. I think it's all set, and then on the other side, the sheet's like not going.
So I'm just going to clamp that for, and then I guess somewhere clamped or whatnot. Doesn't matter. Okay,
There's one
so.
right there. Oh, it's holding up.
And
Never mind.
What's in the clamp? Hi, Steve.
oh, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. That's looking more fun.
Guy
It's higher tech than that other one. Always better.
I'm going for lots of love.
We're not too worried about getting that tight or anything. Sorry. Great. And let's
Be a real house.
so
A little tighter than that.
This varies. There's a couple different ways to skin these boats. This boat, try to do it with little or no sewing at all. I am going to sew around the bow just to show you guys how we do it. But say for a traditional kayak, right? So you have the skin that folds over a long sea kayak. And then you have the cockpit here, and then the fabric will fold over, and then you would sew that seam, like 8 feet of sewing over on this side, and then another 6 or 8 feet of sewing on that side, and then if you, depending on your stitch, you might have to sew it back again.
Yeah, if you baste it, long baste.
I don't do that. There's a lot of different ways to do that. If you're using nylon on your sewing, you really got to pull it tight. Polyester does heat shrink, so you don't need to do that as much. Another option, which if you've seen John Owen's kayak out here, the long white one, that's a skin-on-frame boat, and there's no central seam down the deck. What he did is, and what I did with the Annabelle skiff and a lot of open boats, maybe you just a 1 or 2 piece. It was a 2-piece, so he had one piece of fabric for the deck, for the hull. You do that first, and that's attached with stainless steel or Monel, which is better, but much more expensive. Staples right along the gunnels. And so you pull the fabric tight, and you staple it all along the gunnels, going back and forth from side to side, working your way to the ends. And so you have the hull there, and you trim that off, and you melt those edges, and then you take the leftover piece of fabric, and that goes over the deck. That gets pulled down and also stapled to the gunnels. And then all that gets covered by a wooden rub rail. So you don't even see this. Once you get that on there, you go, whew, that looked like crap a second ago. But now it looks great. I find that the exact emotions every time. I know it's going to look great. I'm looking at it before I get the rub rail and I'm hating it. But the rubber rail just makes that a nice difference. And so that keeps you from having to do very much sewing. And so you can do that in a kayak anytime. So you don't have to sew the stems, perhaps, depending on the shape of the stem. If it's flat or if it has a long overhang, or if it's curved. Some need sewing, and some you can just stretch the fabric the right way and it has enough give. And then you can get that. So, the other option is, like we're going to do with this boat, the fabric is wide enough to go around the entire hull, so we're just going to do, we're going to staple it along the central beam here, and then so that you've got guaranteed waterproof basically until this is upside down, and you can. The only waterproofing I've done with these boats is just stuff that I coat this fabric with, which is typically paint. Fold it over, it's stapled down pretty good, and you have a seam, and we'll have a central seam going in, which you can cover up, or you can roll it and try and make it look nice. But the rest of it is, and then cover that with paint, and that's pretty good. If you leave it upside down in the water for a while, yeah, you're going to get some water inside the hull, and I always include a little drain plug just to let that water out.
Where do you put the plugs?
I put it up in the bow because there's a nice
stuff above the water.
Yeah, well, I put it right up here, upside down, on the deck.
Oh,
so there's a little piece of wood here.
Okay.
Drill that out, and add the drain plug to this.
So you can see that you forgot to put your drain plug in. But it would take an hour or 2 hours of that thing of water pouring into that drain plug to make this to where it would be sluggish. You can put a whole lot of water in here. You probably with a lot of water and not even notice it.
yeah.
So when you're saying that you staple, you got a seam, in this case, so it's like, otherwise you might have a seam here, and what do you do to waterproof that? You just paint it?
Yeah, the paint or whatever your skin coating will go to that. And if you're creating big stitching holes, and some of this fabric, like a nylon, doesn't create as big as stitching holes. This is a very loose weave fabric, and there are different weaves. You can create, and then it just takes some thick and paint. Starting to dry out on the lid or whatever. You scrape that off and dog that in there.
You use a clear cover like vinyl?
Yep, you can use clear vinyl. If you've seen my website, on the very front page is a Russian canoe that I did in transparent vinyl. I've done a few boats like that. It's not my idea. It's been done before, plenty of times. But it looked really cool.
It is cool.
It's not a stronger fabric, and it's a lot more less UV resistant. But it's that same vinyl people use in their
Sails.
and the sail, the sail windows, and also you got the bins or whatever that have the little windows, those plastic windows. Will that shrink? It doesn't really shrink now. So if you get that transparent, if you decide you're going to use that, and some people have to use that, they just decide that. I mean, we had a guy that had to build a see-through stand-up paddleboard at that family boat building Mystic this year. Okay. So there were some compromises with that. They didn't get it perfectly tight. There were some little waves in the fabric. If you get that stuff warm, like you let it sit out in your car in the hot sun and warm that up, it's a lot more flexible and it's a little bit of heat. If it's 30 degrees outside and you're trying to stretch that on there, it's also very stiff. So the temperature,
As hot as possible then?
yeah, you don't want to get it hot, and you don't want to try and heat shrink it with a heat gun because it'll just bake it into get it very brittle. I learned too much to my dismay. So you want to make sure that you have enough fabric to go along the whole boat, that it's centered, right? And then so this fabric, both edges actually has a factory edge. And there's and it's raveled here 1/8 of an inch or so, 3/16, but there's actually a sewn, just like a tape, fiberglass tape. It's got the selvage edge. Yeah. So this has also got a selvage edge, and so you don't have to worry about that unraveling. And since the center of the boat, this stringer is also straight, and we have a nice straight line with this. So I've decided that the easiest way to do that is just go ahead and staple along in a straight line.
Start in the middle and work to the end?
Start in the middle and work your way to the end. So turn this correct side up. The staples don't fall out.
Have you ever tried rafter staples?
I have not, and you're the second person to ask me that. In just a few minutes.
Oh, I didn't hear the other one. Sorry.
No, he didn't ask me very loudly. So I have not tried this rafter stuff. I use stainless steel or Monel 3/8 inch staples, a heavy duty staple gun, and I haven't found an electric one yet that is going to work. Which makes me very unhappy because it's nice just to push the button in instead of squeeze this 1,000 times. Monel staples. There's lots of staple guns out there. These are minimal and they are strong enough for most of the woods. If you're trying to drive these into Doug fir, then you're having issues. But into cedar, you don't really have issues. Oh, this is a nice glued shut with epoxy. Excuse me.
In which case you control it.
Here's how you fix it. Oh, maybe that's not how you fix it. How you break it. This one's
It
good
says
for
good right now.
Good one?
It says good.
Not good anymore.
Cross it off like bad.
There you go. Well,
When you were loaded,
did that a second ago.
Says good on the side.
Yes.
Did you say was good?
You whack it with a hammer. It's
Okay, Dave, we'll wait.
Of course, I usually have 2 or 3 staple guns, but of course.
Anybody got chewing gum?
Yeah.
You have to use the right tool for the job, so I find my best screwdriver typically.
Small Brad, you work.
No, that's all right.
Brad's or something.
When you were driving, you go to your car.
Don't say something.
Yeah.